Welcome back to Beneath the Long Man's Feet. I have a story for this episode. It's not one of my stories, it's an Arthurian tale. It's called the Lady Ragnelle, sometimes called, a bit unfairly, the Ugly Wife. I hope you like it. Now Arthur was in the woods, in the forests, with his nephew Gawain, hunting, when Arthur spied in the distance a beautiful stag. So against the hunting party's better judgment, he handed all of his weapons over and took just a bow and a single arrow and a hunting horn and told the party to wait for him as he stalked the deer. And to cut a story a little bit shorter, Arthur found the deer, the magnificent stag, and he pulled back the string of the bow and he let that arrow fly, and it flew straight and true, straight into the heart of the stag, and the stag fell. Arthur went to blow his horn, but found he couldn't move. He was almost paralyzed apart from his head. And then out of the trees came a black knight, a knight all dressed in black armor, and the light went dark as well. It was Sir Gomer, one of Arthur's mortal enemies. "Arthur," said Sir Gomer, "you have strayed into my land and killed one of my stags. You must now pay the price. This is the rules which you have set." Well, this was true. Arthur could not disagree. I will pay you the gold and silver. What do you want?" said Arthur. He couldn't do anything else. He couldn't move. "I don't want gold and silver," said Sir Gomer. "My price is your head." And he went to draw his sword to take it off. "But," he said, putting his sword back, "let it not be said that Sir Gomer is not an honourable man. I will give you a riddle, and if you give me the answer that I seek in a year and a day, then you may live. But if you do not give me the answer to this riddle, I will then take your head in a year and a day." So the riddle, Arthur, is, what is it that a woman most desires in the whole world? And with that, the Black Knight turned and went. "A year and a day, Arthur," he said, "a year and a day." And as he disappeared back into the forest, the light returned and Arthur could move again. And he blew his horn and the hunting party came running to him. And Arthur confided in Gawain what had happened and how he must now answer this riddle. So Gawain agreed that he would ride the land with his uncle, the king, and they would ask every woman what it is that they most desired. And over the next year, surely they must find the correct answer. So that is what they did. They rode hither and thither and thither and thither. Well, let's just say they rode everywhere. And they asked every woman they could find what it is that a woman most desires in the world. They got a lot of different answers. Some said wealth and power, some said a big house, some said dutiful sons that did what they're told, some said dutiful husbands that did what they were told. One woman even said a lifetime supply of good strawberry jam. Well, they collected all these answers, but Gawain and Arthur weren't entirely sure these were the answers that Sir Gomer was looking for. But a year had passed, so they sat on a log in a clearing where Arthur would the next day go to meet Sir Gomer. And then they heard a strange voice. "I know the answer to your riddle," said the voice. Arthur and Gawain spun round, and there behind them was the strangest looking woman they had ever seen. We might call her a hag, if you're being particularly unkind in these days. A crone. She was bent double, walking on a knobbly stick. She had long, spindly legs, and her fingers were long like claws. Her hair struck out like straw. She had an eyebrow that was single with big, thick, bushy hair, and yellow, bulging eyes, a long, pointed nose with many warts, each one with 3 or 4 big black hairs coming out of it. She had at least 3 chins. But she was a woman. So Arthur said, "If you know the answer to the riddle, I will gladly take it from you." "Ah, there's a price," said the old hag. "I thought there might be," said Arthur. "What is your price?" "I'll give you the answer you seek, and so save your life, and you will give me the hand of Gawain in marriage, for he is a handsome young man, no?" "I can't possibly agree to that," said Arthur. But Gawain leapt up. Of course, uncle, I will do what she says if it will save your life. You know I would do anything to save your life." Well, it went back and forward for a bit until eventually Arthur was sure that Gawain could not be swayed from this idea. So he accepted the old lady's terms, and he took her answer and put it in his bag, and the old lady hobbled off towards the palace to prepare for the marriage. Well, the next day at dawn, Arthur was in the clearing, and there waiting for him was Sir Gomer the Black Knight, with his sword already drawn, gleaming in the light. "You have the answer I request," said Sir Gomer. And Arthur went to his bag and he read out all the answers that he had collected. He didn't mention one about strawberry jam, because that was probably not a good one. But each answer he read, Sir Gomer just laughed and shook his head. "I have given you your chances now, Arthur. You have not given me the answer I seek. I would now take your head." And he went to swipe the sword across Arthur's neck. But Arthur said, "No, wait, I have one more answer to give." "Better make it quick," said Sir Gomer, "for you are trying my patience." And Arthur read the answer that the old hag had given him. And at this point, the Black Knight went red with frustration and anger, and he's frothing at the mouth. "I don't know who told you this answer, but you have found the answer to my riddle, and now I must let you go. Now go, now, and never come to my lands again, or I will have your head." Well, Arthur didn't need any telling again. With great delight, he ran out of the clearing. He clapped Gawain on the shoulder and explained that he was free, and gaily they made their way back to the palace. But once there, they realised that they'd have to do this marriage. Gawain would have to marry the old hag. Arthur tried to make it a secret affair with just a few people, but the old hag, the old woman, she wouldn't have it. No, this must be in full view of your court, Arthur. That was the deal." So that was what happened. And all the people who were invited to the wedding could not believe Gawain's choice of bride. For he was an attractive young man. He could have had any woman, perhaps. But here he was with this strange bent double old hag. And she had grease in her hair where she was wiping her hair from eating the banquet feast. She had mead and juices all down her top where she wiped her hands on herself. But never once did Gawain waver from her opinion. He was attentive to her like a good husband could. He called her my lady, and he ignored the jibes and the harsh comments of the wedding guests at large. He was the perfect gentleman. And at the end of the day, the old lady got up and said, "Come, Gawain, 'tis time to go to your chambers and consummate this affair." Well, Gawain followed her dutifully. It was, to be fair, the bit he was least looking forward to. And once in his chambers, he turned her back on her and started undressing. And she looked in the mirror and powdered her 3 chins and said, "Come, Gawain, you may kiss me now. I sense some reticence in you. I don't think you've ever hesitated to kiss a girl before, huh?" Well, Gawain knew he had to do this. It was part of the deal he had made. So he turned round, and then he was astonished. For there in front of him wasn't the old hag, but a beautiful woman. Perhaps the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Now, Gawain had seen quite a lot of women, so for him to think this was the most beautiful one, well, it tells you how stunning she was to him, I think. I don't understand," said Gawain. "Ah," said the lady, "my name is Lady Ragnelle, and I was placed under a curse. And I must spend half my day in my womanly form, and half the day in the old hag form that you saw earlier. But you must choose, Gawain. You must choose now how you would have me. Whether you'd have me as a woman in your bed and a hag at your arm in court, or hag in the bed and a woman at your arm in court. Come now, you must choose." Well, Gawain thought for a minute, "But that's easy. I'll have you as the woman in the bed and the hag on my..." "Oh, no, wait, that's really shallow, isn't it? No, I would have you as the hag at night and the woman on my arm. But then people might think you're just a trophy wife, and that would be really bad for you. No, I would have you as a woman in my bed now and a hag and a woman..." No. He just couldn't decide. He went backwards and forwards trying to make a decision that made him look better and was better for the woman. And eventually Lady Ragnelle said, "Come, Gawain, you must choose now." And in frustration, Gawain said, "I don't know. You choose." And at that moment, there seemed to be a light lifted in the chamber, and Lady Ragnelle smiled. She said, "Thank you, Gawain. I have been placed under this curse until a man can tell me what it is that a woman wants most in the world. Yes, you have given me that. Sovereignty, the right to make my own decisions, my own choices in this world, and not be beholden to a man. Now come to bed, my dear Gawain. We have some catching up to do." And catching up, they certainly did. Perhaps for a couple of days they stayed in his chamber, catching up. And that might be the end of the story. Now we know what it is that a woman most desires in the whole world. But some say Gawain and the Lady Ragnelle lived together for years and years, happily ever after they both died, spending a lot of time in their chambers together. Some say, though, that Lady Ragnelle, she grew bored of Gawain and his comeliness and his vainness, and she returned to the forest, spending half the time in her old hag form, tricking men and exposing their inability to be truthful, shall we say. I don't know what the correct answer to that is. Why don't you choose? But my tale is now told. And so, as always, I will bid you hail and farewell. But do let me know what you thought of this. Drop me a line on my Facebook page or my YouTube page, whichever you prefer. And Greg Draven, if you're watching, get ready to count. I now bid you hail and farewell.